Today's episode is brought to you by AOS Kitchens, the South's leading outdoor kitchen design and installation specialists. Welcome to another episode of the Meet and Greet Barbecue podcast. Today it's me and Dan again, and we're going to be talking about beginners. What's the things that you need to do to get set up? If you've never barbecued before, what should you be thinking about? Just our opinions, and of course everyone's going to have their own opinions, but this is kind of how we got set up, and let's get straight into it, Dan.
Yeah, it's also, I think, good for people who are thinking about going back to basics. It's very easy to overcomplicate things, particularly if you've done it for years and years. And we get asked a lot, or at least I do, in work by people who maybe haven't barbecued before. They're thinking about getting their first setup together. So it's a topic that we've been asked about so much, we thought we'd come to life. So one of the first things that I've been asked when these things come up is, what barbecue should I get if I've never barbecued before? Where should I even start? So I want to know what your thoughts on that are. Owen, where would you start if you'd never barbecued before?
With a kettle. With a Weber. It doesn't have to be a Weber, but a premium kettle. One that you have to invest a little bit of money in. And what I mean by that is not necessarily a 20, 30 quid one that you pick up at your local DIY store and you leave that rusts, after a season. Something, again, in my opinion, like a Weber kettle, because it's a great all-round barbecue. Majority of them have got the thermometers built in, which helps understand how the barbecue holds heat and cooking temperatures. So for me, that is an absolute given. A good kettle, great all-round barbecue, because you can do your smoking, you can do your hot and fast, your 2 zones, snake methods, all of these things that you'll get into. So that's where I'd start.
I definitely agree. And for me, the most important thing that Owen mentioned there is get a kettle. Webers are a great make. People know them for a reason. But when we first started doing this podcast, I had a kettle that I'd got from Amazon. It was around 150, 160 pound. So it wasn't kind of the same sort of level as Weber. But the key thing is lid and thermometer, and making sure that you can understand what's happening inside that. And if you've got something that can accurately tell you what the temperature is on the inside, there is so much you can do. And as Owen said, the great thing about a kettle as well is it allows you to 2 zone, it allows you to do lots of different techniques, and allows you to cook anything in any way. But if you've never barbecued before and you're worried about investing too much, I personally would say that a Weber kettle is a great second barbecue if you're not sure how often you're going to barbecue, or even you want to first trial and learn. But I suppose it's all about how much you're willing to spend in the first place. But if you can afford to go in at a Weber kettle, that's going to be your best option for a first go. On the point of understanding the temperature that's going on inside the barbecue, and something that I don't hear talked about enough, is it's really important to check that actually the thermometer that's on your barbecue or kettle is giving you an accurate reading, because if you're misunderstanding that, it's going to have a huge impact on what you're cooking, right?
Yeah, and most will be close enough. But and obviously it's just to think about the thermometer in the lid is measuring the temperature higher up, in and around the lid. Obviously, it will be slightly hotter, actually at the cooking level. But I think, certainly when I was getting going, it was accurate enough that it gave me a good enough indication of where I am and where I need to be. But you're right. Having a lid is essential.
It is also surprisingly easy to check if your thermometer is actually doing what it wants to do. And if you've bought a kettle for the first time, set up like that, quite often the thermometer comes separately that you have to put in. So you can get a pan, boil some water. You know that the boiling water is going to be 100 Celsius. You can put it in there, and if for some reason it's not showing at 100, then there's normally either like a little screw that you can turn, or a little twisty, for want of a better word, knob or thing that can make sure that you get the accuracy there. And once you know and you're confident that it's giving you the temperature that you want it to do, and as Owen says, 9 times out of 10, if not more, it will be in the first place, you're good to go. And then you can truly understand that if you want to cook something low and slow, you can understand, right, I'm at 110, 105 Celsius, 250, 275 Fahrenheit. Lock yourself in, and off you go. And so, talking about locking in temperatures, vents on barbecues. So for anyone who's new and might feel a bit intimidated about the vents on the bottom and top of the barbecue and how they work, how would you introduce people to those systems?
So the bottom vents, those are the ones that are essentially, the more you open those up, the hotter it's going to get. And then you use the top vent as the way to. Long and short of it is, the more air that goes in, the hotter it's going to be. The more you close the vents over, the less oxygen can get in. It's going to restrict then the heat. So, if you want to do something hot and fast, and you are looking at grilling, searing steaks or cooking sausages or burgers, you want high heat, then you will have the vents open. If you're wanting to do something more smoking, then it's about closing those vents, and it's not accurate. You'll just have to play with them, how often, how much you open and close them to get the to get the level and the heat that you want. But yeah, fundamentally, the more that the vents are open, the hotter it will be. The more they're closed, the colder it will be.
I've had it described to me when I first started out as, think of it as a car.
Marcus Borden.
Yeah, the bottom vent is your brake, right? If you've got it closed, it's accelerator. All right then. So if you've got it closed, nothing's going to happen. The more you open it, the more you're drawing the air into the barbecue itself. And then the top vent, the more you've opened that, the more it sucks the air through. And the quicker that the air is being sucked through, the more that you're going to put fire and power through your coals. If you have both of them closed, nothing's going to happen at all. So think of them as different pedals that you have on a car, allowing you to do what you want. And it's more about getting a feel and understanding your barbecue. So don't be afraid to play about with them. Different from kettle, but I've got monolith ceramic. So when I'm first firing everything up, I'll have both vents right the way open to help get heat in, soak the ceramic, fire things up, and then I'll actually pretty much close both of the vents and then slightly open them almost to a finger width. Give it time, understand what the temperature is, and then I tend to open the top vent more and more if I'm wanting to get a bit more heat in there, and then I'll close the vent slightly once I've got the temperature that I want. But just experiment and get a feel with the barbecue, because at the end of the day, it's not going to hurt you unless you put your hand in it. So it's worth having a play and understand, because if you can start mastering that temperature control, it's going to give you so much more confidence and skill when it comes to barbecuing and actually achieving the different results that you'd like. So now we've got our suggested barbecue, and we've talked about kind of temperature control. Let's talk a bit more now about the fuel that you're going to be using. As you can probably tell, we're speaking more around kind of charcoal and things rather than gas. I've got nothing against gas, it's good for certain barbecues. But if I'm a beginner and I want to be getting into barbecue and I want to be enjoying barbecue, personally, I want the fun of creating fires, playing with the fire, as it were, and also getting that true barbecue taste, which quite often you don't get the same sort of feeling and flavour from gas. Would you agree on that point, Owen?
Yeah, definitely. But again, each to their own. So there are some great pellet grills. There are some great wood fire, using wood only, and there are some, some good gas ones that people want. It's whatever's for you, but fundamentally for us, if we started again, it would always be charcoal. But my biggest bit of advice is to buy a chimney starter.
Yes.
It's so much easier to get a barbecue lit and to temperature quicker and more efficient. Fuel efficient is by putting a chimney starter, because obviously it condenses it all into one area. You put the heat source underneath, and it just gets quick, and then you just pour it out to get going. Me personally, I'm not a fan of using any kind of like kind of petrol based firelighters. I always buy natural firelighters. I don't want to impose the kind of petroleum flavors or smells into my food, and same for charcoal. You don't want it, with the ones that are like light in the bags, it's kind of got that it's doused in those chemicals to get the bag going. I would much prefer to use proper charcoal and a natural firelighter.
Couldn't agree more. I love natural firelighters. I personally actually think they do a better job than the petrol options and the lighter fluid options. And
definitely don't use lighter fluid.
Don't do that.
Don't pour lighter fluid onto your charcoal. Jeez.
I mean, you get lighter fluid, but I suppose you probably could knock the cap off a lighter, but it would blow things up. I know. Oh god, there's nothing more fun than annoying Owen. But Owen's completely right. Not only that, like the chimney starters, it lights faster than if you're doing the light in a bag items as well. I mean, you fill up your chimney with your charcoal, you put a natural firelighter underneath, you light it, you put the chimney on top, and it's lit and ready to cook in 15 minutes. Maybe 20, depending on what you're using and how much charcoal you've got in there. You pour it out, you're good to go, particularly if you're doing something hot and fast in that situation, because it's not like you're then at the point where you need to be working on the temperature control. If you're going to be doing something that's going to be direct over the coals, it really is it's fast and enjoyable on that.
If you've been looking or thinking about an outdoor kitchen, then look no further than AOS Outdoor Kitchens.
They are the South's leading outdoor kitchen design and installation specialists.
Their extensive showroom is based just outside Bournemouth on the Dorset-Hampshire border, and as well as numerous in-store displays, also features a live outdoor kitchen where they cook every week on Kamado grills, pizza ovens, and all filmed and shown on YouTube.
They offer a wealth of knowledge on how to transform your patio into the most incredible outdoor dining area, with styles and options to suit every budget, and you can guarantee they will be able to create something perfectly suited to you and your home.
They stock and supply everything that you're going to need for outdoor cooking, including barbecues, Kamado ovens, pizza ovens, outdoor fridges, and every accessory that you would need to become the ultimate outdoor chef.
So if you want to make yourself the envy of your friends and neighbours, get in touch with them today to arrange a consultation and take the first step in transforming your back garden into the most incredible entertainment space.
Visit aoskitchens.co.uk.
And while we're talking about fuel as well, beginners will be looking at charcoal and they'll be seeing lumpwood, and they'll also be seeing briquettes. What's your views on those, Owen?
I like to use both. So my preference is, if I am cooking more hot and fast, I prefer to use lumpwood. And if I'm doing more low and slow, briskets or something like that, I prefer to use briquettes. And that's not to say that lumpwood that I buy wouldn't do the job. It's just down to my personal preference.
I mean, briquettes are known and kind of designed to be more for those longer burns, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, if you get a good quality briquette, you're going to get 3-hour burn on those. But that being said, similarly, if you get some really good lumpwood charcoal, right, you're getting similar amounts. It's just my personal preference. But it's about buying. It's not about buying the kind of, unfortunately, the cheapy stuff that you get in your typically your local supermarket. They don't tend not to last very long. But if you do buy some good quality stuff, that's the stuff that burns long.
And if you're thinking about carbon footprint as well, you can pay real attention to where the charcoal's been made. You can get an understanding if it's been flown in, if it's something more local or British based, or whatever country you're based in. Look at where it is. But I would recommend looking at that side of things as well, so you're not having as big an impact on the carbon footprint, but also that gives you more of an idea quite often of the quality and time and effort put into the making of the product. And if you're cooking food with love and with time, that goes down to all aspects of it. So why not have the same thought process and opinion on the fuel as well?
Yep, absolutely.
So we've got our fuel, we've got our barbecue. We've also talked about really important part of one of the best ways, and it's also about creating repetition as well, so what you're going to get out of things. Chimney stars, all of it's going to give you that control, and what's going to happen and why it's going to happen and how it's going to happen. Next, what other essential pieces of kit would you suggest? Give me one.
There's so many. A meat thermometer.
Yeah, perfect. Probe. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, so meat probe for sure. And again, it's just that confidence that that the food is cooked. Now, most of us in Britain, and we've kind of gone over this so many times, so I'm not going to necessarily go into detail, but the classic black on the outside, pink on the inside, of the British barbecue of when we were little kids and whatever. But a meat probe just stops that. So, there are some great meat probes out there, super accurate, and it just gives you that confidence that your meat is cooked properly, so that you're not running the risk of, making anyone ill. But it also comes down to, and we're both massive fans of Thermapen, the brand. There are other meat probes out there, but their classic cook to temperature, not to time, is definitely true. Each piece of meat is going to be different. The instructions that you get on the front of the packet is not always going to be as accurate. So that it should be a particular temperature inside. That's what a meat probe will tell you.
The other thing I found as well, particularly with chicken, and I can understand why they do this, is the temperatures that they give you, at least in Britain, on the packets on the supermarket. If you cook to the temperature that they say and the amount of time, and I'm going to use an oven as an example here because that should be the most basic, right temperature, right timings and everything. You probe it and the temperature's a lot higher than when a chicken is done. And that's because they want to be as safe as possible and everything. Yeah. But as long as you are cooking to temperature, you will know that the piece of meat is perfectly safe if you're probing properly, accurately in the right place. But also with things like chicken, you'll realise and understand how to get a moist chicken, a more enjoyable chicken. I mean, Owen and I have both worked with someone who was so worried about cooking chicken, he'd put a chicken breast in the oven at 190, 200 degrees Celsius for 45, 50 minutes, some of the small ones, and they'd come out almost like a piece of leather. But that was just how he felt comfortable because he was so afraid of getting any sort of food poisoning. Whereas a meat thermometer, same as when you're cooking in an oven, actually, I use it all the time inside. But even more importantly, on a barbecue, gives you full understanding and control of what's happening in the piece of meat. And we've just mentioned chicken there, right? 75, stay alive. I'm talking Celsius because we're Brits. But, if you're looking to cook a piece of steak and you want it to be rare, medium,
55 degrees, it's just, steaks is another great example. Poultry, steaks, if you have your steak in a particular way, of course, there's the old kind of touch, pushing it and feeling it, and depending on the kind of the feel of it, you'll get that. All right, we're not all chefs, so having that having that probe to definitively tell you the temperature inside, and then you can make sure that you do end up with your medium rare, your rare steaks, etc. So for me, it's an absolute essential.
And going on to low and slow as well, if you're doing something like a brisket and you start reading it and understanding it, you're going to go, right, so I'm going to do it low and slow. I'm going to temp probe it after the first 2.5, 3 hours, every 45 minutes to an hour. When it hits 75 Celsius, I'm going to wrap it. And then once I've wrapped it, I'm going to keep cooking it until I get to 93, 95, and it's probing like butter. And then experience comes into things like the feel as well. But you know that if you're going to sticking to the internal temperatures and you're going to do it in the right way, it's going to give you the best possible results. And that's why, if Owen hadn't said it, to me, that and a chimney starter, for me, are the two most essential pieces of equipment and accessories from barbecue. And I'd even go as far to say, from my perspective, that's even more so than like a spatula and tongs, which are really important and useful to have. But if you want to be confident in what you're doing, you want to be getting consistent results, and you want to be safe, those things are going to make you sure and know that you don't have to be worrying about those sides, because everything's going to be cooked properly and safely and accurately. But let's start talking about things like tongs and spatulas, because they are pretty important.
They are, and there's not too much to say in that you are going to need tongs to turn the meat, your spatulas or whatever to flip burgers or whatever. Another really obvious one is, right, heat-proof gloves.
Yeah.
You don't want to burn yourself, get some gloves. So, yeah, I mean, I think we've covered the kind of essentials, and then there's just the obvious stuff. You have to have cutlery and utensils to be able to cook the meat, and you have to be able to hold the lid, you have to be able to hold the cooking grate. You're going to need heat-proof gloves for those things. Yeah, and I'm sure there's loads of other things, but and I personally use food gloves and stuff when I'm actually preparing the food, and there's all these other things. But I think as long as you've got a good barbecue, decent charcoal, chimney starter, thermometer, gloves and spatula, etc., you're good to go.
One thing that I would add, particularly when talking about kettles, because not all of them come with this, is the lid of the kettle, right? So if you've got the lid of the kettle and it's something you're going to be taking off, I mean, you can put it on the floor, but I mean, a lot of Weber's come with this anyway, but other barbecues, you can buy them as an extra accessory. For want of a better word, it's almost like a handle thing that goes on the inside that allows you to hang it off the side of the barbecue. So you've got somewhere for it to sit there. It's not on the floor. It's less likely that young people, if they're running around, are going to go touch it or run into it. And it gives you somewhere safe to put it as well if you're busy faffing with things that you're not going to step back on it. If you're going for the kettle like we've suggested, if you haven't bought one that's already got one of those clips that sits inside the lid, you can buy them as an added accessory. I'd highly recommend getting one of those as well, because it makes your life so much easier, and it means you have less of those, or less opportunity for the barbecue fails that we've talked about in the past as well.
Definitely. And look, people that listen to this podcast regularly, and a lot of the community that we know that are no doubt far more experienced than we are, I'm sure there are other tips and hints, and some of our previous guests have definitely put forward some really, really useful tips for beginners. But let's hear from you. So please do write in, tag us in socials, whatever it might be. What are your tips for anyone that wants to get into barbecuing? What are the kind of essentials? What would you recommend they do to get themselves going?
Exactly. And in this episode, we've covered, from our perspective, if you've never barbecued before, those are the essentials that we would recommend you having. And I'm sure in other episodes we'll start talking about different meats, proteins, whatever you want to call it, that you want to cook and how to cook it. But that is our guide for if you're setting up a new barbecue area and you want to get into barbecue, that is where we'd start. So reach out to us. Thank you again for listening, liking, subscribing, following us on our social medias. There's lots of different ways you can contact us. Give us a Google, etc. And we'd love to hear from you. But yeah, thank you for listening.
Until next time, keep on grilling.
Today's episode of the Meet and Greet Barbecue podcast is brought to you by AOS Outdoor Kitchens. They are the South's leading outdoor kitchen design and installation specialists.